Welcome back to a bit gamey and another history video. Just to narrow down what this applies to, it doesn't include Africa or the Americas, and it's only about Western Eurasia. If you look at the map of Eurasia, it's you got the Himalayas in the middle, a great big slab of mountains in the middle, and that kind of divides things into three or four: East Asia, South Asia, and what I'm calling Western Eurasia. There's also the steppe bit at the top, but that's not relevant to this. So this little talk is only about Western Eurasia because I don't know enough about the other two to put it into that context. So, and this is something I noticed when I was planning out my Regiments Through History little series, which I got stuck on right at the beginning with Sumerians. But anyway, so I was planning this out, and I noticed something weird that I'd always known, but I'd never noticed in this context. So that's what this little video is about. Is about the what I call suicide by civilization, or words to that effect. And something that I noticed while doing this. So in Western Eurasia, civilization is supposedly started in southern Mesopotamia. You see, after that stretch in the on the edge of the Persian Gulf, that all used to be land first during the Ice Age, and it all got flooded, and the people from there came out to the bit just where it stopped being flooded, in all these regions around in Sumer. These little towns, and so civilization started there, or at least in Western Eurasia, and the little towns that started got bigger and they started fighting each other, blah 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 blah. And so that was the center point of civilization. But then there was a kind of it shifted north because of the Akkad, which is up in this middle bit here. So it started off in southern Mesopotamia and moved up to the center point, moved up to Akkad. It's like in the middle. And then later on it moved up north again, up around Assyria. But the weird thing is like it seems like civilization keeps moving, or the center point keeps moving. It starts there, goes there, and then ends up there. And it's not 100%. In that, the Sumerians start off, lots of these little towns fight each other. They eventually turn into a kind of big empire. Then they get attacked by Akkad and damaged, and then conquered by Gutians from up north, barbarians from up north. And then they have a kind of a dead cat bounce with neo-Sumerians afterwards. And similar things happen with other things like Assyria. Well, Assyria becomes the top dog for a long time, and extends across all the civilized bits, and then they get trashed by Persia, but then they have a dead cat bounce with the neo-Assyrians later. But it seems to kind of like becoming the top dog seems to do something bad to the original people. So they don't. They may have a dead cat bounce later, but generally, once they've been top dog once, they that's it. It doesn't happen again. Let's say it starts off in southern Sumeria. They get Akkad takes over for a while as the main dog, top dog, and then later on it moves up north to Assyria. And the other thing about it is the previous ones don't rise again. That's the thing. It's like you thought that if the Sumerians had been the smart ones who started it all off, then they might have lost a war or a battle or whatever and been conquered by somebody else at some point. But you think they could they'd be a candidate for coming back. That they'd return. There'd be a Sumeria 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But it doesn't seem to happen. It seems to happen to the civilization or the people in the civilization's area. That does something to them. So they don't come back. They have their time in the sun and then they're gone. Moving on, you start off in southern Mesopotamia, Then it moves on to the middle of Mesopotamia, around Akkad, the Akkadian Empire, and then the Assyrian Empire. I say there's lots of little wobbles in between, but that's the general rule. And then the next stage is it shifts to Persia. So it starts off in Sumer, moves to Akkad, then to Assyria. I say lots of wobbles in between. It's like it takes thousands of years. So there's lots of little wobbles in between, but that's the general pattern. It goes 1, 2, 3, and it shifts from there to Persia. That's has a big empire that goes all the way up to modern Turkey. And it's Persia's turn, and then Persia gets defeated by the Greeks on the Macedon. So it's their turn, and then Macedon or Greeks get defeated by the Romans. And so the interesting thing, I'd always known this, but I just never noticed this particular aspect, is how it keeps moving away from the starting point. It starts there, goes there, then to there, then there, and then there. It's like these other places don't disappear, but they once being at the top dog for a while, it's like it does something to them. So they have their time in the sun, but not afterwards. It keeps carrying on moving outwards, and I don't know. It's just very odd. And then we have the next stage. So saying starting off with Sumer, Akkad, and Assyria, all in Mesopotamia. Then Persia takes over for a bit, and it's the Persian Empire. Then the Greece/Macedon takes over from the Persians, and its centre is there. And then later on, Rome, obviously, missed that one out. So then it goes west to Rome. And then there's a bit of a gap. Well, it's not exactly a gap because other things do take over, but then often from people from the outside. So, for example, you had Arabs coming in into the south, and Turks coming in from the steppe to take Anatolia. So there's the civilization bit, and then there's the takeover by barbarians bit. So sometimes it's you get kind of dead cat bounce, like say with the Turks coming into Anatolia, but it's not the same people. That's the point really I was trying to make. Is that the Sumerians kind of disappear from history, or get much weaker. Babylon more or less disappears. Assyria, they don't carry on to being. Persia does survive to a large extent. But the further back you go, the less surviving there is of the original population, and you do get new empires rising in the same regions, but usually it's from people that are coming from outside, like the Turks coming into Anatolia, or Arabs coming into the southern regions of the southern parts of these old empires. But it's not the same people who are doing it. It's not like Sumeria 2 or Sumeria 3. It's Sumeria, and then it's Akkad, and then it's Assyrians, and then it's Persians. It's not the same people keep going, returning. It's not like it's not part 2, part 3, part 4. So where was that? So you got all the ones in the Mesopotamia. Then you got Persia, Greece, Rome. Then it shifts. I would say there's a bit of a dark age in the middle, in the west anyway. But then the centre of civilization shifts to northwest Europe. France, Holland, Britain, northwest and west as well, because you've got Portugal and Spain. So that they have their time in the sun, and then it shifts across to America, and they're top dog for a while. And currently, at least, it's looking like it's shifting to East Asia. But say the key point is it moves. I don't know. It's an obvious thing because you've seen it, reading history books for years. But I never quite noticed this thing of how it's like civilization seems to damage the people who are part of who are the top dog. The people on the edges who are never top dog, they more or less stay the same. But the top dog seems to the process seems to damage them somehow. So they don't rise again. It's rise and fall of civilizations, not rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall. You know, they don't keep coming back. I don't know. It's just an odd thing. It's starting there and it's just travelling all over the place. You know, rather, not all over the place. It's travelling from place to place. You know, it starts off there, then it moves there, then it goes to there, then to there, then to there, then to there. And it's like, I don't know, it's just an odd thing. That civilization, or something about civilization, seems to destroy itself. Or at least destroy the top dog. Because, you know, parts of it carry on, like, you know, Sweden didn't really have much of an empire. So they're sort of carrying on. But it's the places that were the big deal, the top dogs, they it seems to wreck them after a while. You know, they get their brief moment, 15 minutes of fame, and it damages them. You know, like America now. If you think of the peak of America and the way it's now, or Britain, or, you know, France, or Rome, or Greece, it takes something out of them. Don't know, it's just a weird thought. It's just, don't know if it means anything, but it's just interesting. Okay, to a bit.